Just finished eating a wonderful bacon cheeseburger I made. Holy cow, that's fabulous. I'll tell you what's fabulous because I'm Bryan Wilton, that's why. Welcome once again to Show Prep for the rest of the healing community. Many of them like to talk about what they think they know. What up, yo? I'm glad you're on. We're going to talk about some things. Because this week has been an interesting week. Several people that I know and care about have had tragedy strike in their life. This is not something I take lightly. The only thing I can do is offer purpose, guidance, and direction. I've had tragedy. Everybody's had a little bit. But when you're in the middle of it, it sucks ass. Right? So where do I go to find that kind of guidance? Well, if I pull it out of my ass, it's probably not going to be as nearly as good as if I pull it from somewhere else. Like perhaps a learned and ancient tradition that is the foundation for all of or much of Christian thought. Because all of Christianity has its roots in some pagan tale that somebody stole from. Tonight, we're going to discuss one called the Hindleyoth. And I've used it for a lot of reasons. And tonight, I'm going to use it for a very particular reason. Let's explain what it is first so we can be on the same sheet of music. So the author of the compiler of this poetic edda doesn't have a very favorable opinion of this. But let's talk about where it comes from. The Hindleyoth is found in neither of the great manuscripts of the poetic edda. Okay, great. But it is included in the so-called Flateyjarbók, the Book of the Flat Island. So, the Book of the Flat Island. An enormous compilation made somewhere about 1400. The lateness of the manuscript would itself be enough to cast doubt upon the condition in which the poem has been preserved, and there can be no question that what we do have is in very poor shape. It is, in fact, two separate poems, or parts of them clumsily put together. The longer one, the poem of Hindle properly, is chiefly a collection of names, not strictly mythological, but belonging to the semi-historical hero sagas of Norse tradition. The wise woman Hindle, being asked by Freya to trace the ancestor of her favorite otter for the purpose of deciding a wager, gives a complex genealogy, including many of the heroes who appear in the popular sagas handed down from days long before the Icelandic settlements. The poet was learned, but without enthusiasm. Ain't that a bitch? It is not likely that he composed the Hindleyoth much before the 12th century, though the material of which it is compounded must have been very much older. So this is about the same time Islam is reaching out into the world, right? Though the material of which it is compounded must have been much older. Well, no shit. Hi, babe. Although the genealogies are essentially continental, that's important to note, the poem seems rather like a product of the archaeological period of Iceland. So both of them reference much older periods, the continental idea and the archaeological period of Iceland. Inserted bodily in the Hindleyoth is a fragment of 51 lines, taken from a poem which, by curious chance, we know the name. Snorri quotes one stanza of it, calling it the Short Voluspa. The fragment preserved gives, of course, no indication of the length of the original poem, so it must have been much larger. But it shows that it was a late and very inferior imitation of the Great Voluspa. So that's an opinion, not a fact. Like the Hindleyoth proper, it apparently comes from, good evening, ma'am. It comes from the 12th century, but there's nothing whatever to indicate that the two poems were the work of the same man or were ever connected in any way until some blundering copyist mixed them up. Certainly the connection did not exist in the middle of the 13th century when Snorri quoted the Short Voluspa. And here's the part that gets me the most. Neither poem is of any great value, either as mythology or as poetry. The author of the Short Voluspa seems indeed to have been more or less confused as to his facts, and both poets were too late to feel anything of the enthusiasm of the earlier school. The names of Hindle's heroes, of course, suggest an unlimited number of stories, but as most of these have no direct relation to the poems of the Edda, I have limited the notes to a mere record of who the persons mentioned were and the saga groups in which they appeared. Whenever you come across someone that dismisses something like this as being unimportant or unenthusiastic, We have to consider very carefully the power and the necessity of our spirituality. Here we are in the 21st century, hundreds, thousands of years after the fact. And this is what's in front of us. Something should be said about that. Something should be embraced about the fact that, okay, after thousands of years, this is what you get to work with. Why is that? Why would this be here if it's not important and doesn't have any value? Why does this matter? So here we are in the 21st century, and this is what we get to work with. And they poo-poo the idea as it being important, and yet they still publish it. That tells me that maybe I need to be looking at something a little bit closer than just somebody's nonsensical bullshit. But it starts off with Freya. She says, "Maiden awake, wake thee, my friend, my sister Hindle in thy hollow cave. Already comes darkness, and ride must we to Valhall to seek the sacred hall. The favor of here, father, seek we to find. To his followers gold he gladly gives. To Hermoth he gave helm and mail coat, and to Sigmund he gave a sword as a gift." So right there, that tells me that both gods and goddesses interact with individuals in life. I don't know how that manifests in everyone's life. I just have a reassurance here in my faith that it does happen. So the note says the names of the speakers do not appear in the manuscripts. So that's Freya speaking first. Otter has made a wager of his entire inheritance with Angantyr regarding the relative loftiness of his ancestry, and by rich offerings, Hindley hints at a less commendable methods, has induced Freya to assist him in establishing his genealogy. Freya, having turned Otter for purposes of disguise into a boar, calls on the giantess Hindla, which means she-dog, to aid her. Hindla does not appear elsewhere in the poems. So the second footnote in the second paragraph is the here father, that is Odin. Hermod is mentioned in the Prose Edda as a son of Odin who is sent to hell to ask for the return of the slain Balder. Sigmund, according to the Volsung saga, Sigmund was the son of Volsung and hence Odin's great-great-grandson. Note that Wagner eliminates all the intervening generations by the simple expedient of using Volsung's name as one of Odin's many appellations. Sigmund alone was able to draw from the tree the sword, which a mysterious stranger, Odin, had thrust into it, right? So we talked about that probably a couple weeks ago. So those two footnotes right there offer a world of explanation about just the introduction of this poem. Freya, having turned Otter for purposes of disguise into a boar, calls on the giantess, a she-dog, to aid her. So Otter needed some help, right? Let's continue on. I'll get to the point of this in just a second. So he's in a bind. He's in a pickle. He's fixing to lose all his shit because he run off at the mouth and he's not real sure, and he needs to know for sure. He needs to know for certain who he is. So he calls upon the goddess. And the goddess is going to escort him to Valhall to seek your father's aid. But the important thing to note is she didn't just take him by the hand and walk him through there. She's going to change him into a boar, right? And then she's going to cut a dog loose on his ass. Triumph to some and treasure to others, to many wisdom and skill in words, fair winds to the sailor, to the singer his art, and a manly heart to many a hero. Thor shall I honor, and this shall I ask, that his favor true mayest thou ever find, though little the brides of the giants he loves. So said, look, I'll put in a good word for you with Thor so he doesn't break your fucking head. From the stall now one of thy wolves lead forth, and along with my boar shalt thou let him run, for slow my boar goes on the road of the gods, and I would not weary my worthy steed. So she's riding a steed, and she's saying he's dragging ass in his obligation to move forward down this road. So let's cut the wolves loose on him. Let's get the wolves to nip at his heels and see if he can pick up the pace just a little bit. You know what? That's kind of how it is in life. That's just the reality of it. And it sucks like ass. But that toughest obstacle in front of you, that is always the way to go. You know, so much of what we've grown up to believe in with regards to Christianity is that someone will do it for us. Someone's going to take this pain away. Someone's going to make it not hurt. Someone's going to take there's going to clear the path for us, and I don't have to do anything. Our ancestors, the gods that our ancestors worshipped, said, no, you're going to go through the obstacle and you're going to deal with it. You're going to put one foot in front of the other. And if you slow up, you're going to miss the lessons you need to be learning. So here's a wolf we're going to put on your ass. It's very, even as above, so below. It chases the sun and moon. There's two wolves that chase the sun and the moon. Why wouldn't it do the same thing for us as we try to shine in this life, as we try to live up to the standard of what we're supposed to become? I don't know what it is. He called on the goddess, right? Falsely thou speak to me, Freya, for to go. For so in the glance of thine eyes I see, on the way of the slain thy lover goes with thee. Honor the young, the sign of Instein. So right there she tells him he's the son of Instein, but she also throws an insult in there, just like everything else. So when the actions of the divine cannot be properly understood, oh, we'll bring it down to a human level and we'll call her a bad name. She must have given up some for him, right? So that's her lover. Freya says, wild dreams methinks are thine when thou sayest, my lover is with me on the way of the slain. There shines the boar with bristles of gold, Hildisvini, he who was made by Dane, and now be the cunning of dwarfs. Now let us down from our saddles leap and talk of the race of the heroes twain, the men who were born of the gods above. A wager have made in the foreign metal, honor the young and Angantyr. Right? Hildisvini means battle swine. We must guard for the hero young to have his father's wealth, the fruits of his race. And this is the important part right here. So they go down telling what he is. The foreign metal is gold, right? That's not something that they, even Tacitus says gold wasn't really what they cared about up there. They didn't look for it. They didn't have a lot of it. I'm sure it's very prominent. So she accuses Freya of having her lover with her, unless Otter is identical with Oath, or Oder, which seems most likely. There is no other reference to this love affair. The way of the slain is the road to Valhalla, right? Now, for me, a shrine of stones he made, and now to glass the rock has grown. Oft with the blood of beasts was it bred, and the goddesses ever did Otter trust. This is action. This is the action of a man who seeks to celebrate spirituality in his life. For a shrine of stones he made, and now to glass the rock is grown. What an interesting, powerful fire. A fire that grows within our breast, that burns the stone and turns it to glass, that changes the foundations of everything we work with. To change something from one material to another, this is the essence of alchemy. And that same principle applies with us. The fire that burns within us must change us into something else. To seek that powerful spiritual aid, to go there as less than we can become, hinders our ability. This is when the challenges arise. This is when the hardships are here, right? To change us from stone to glass, from flesh to bone, from weak to strong. The transitions that happen in life are painful. They hurt. They suck. Not a goddamn good thing about them, except it changes you from what you are into what you can become. And sometimes it has to be a little bit tough. Sometimes it has to feel like your guts are being fucking ripped out. But sometimes when you do make that transition from stone to glass, you find the power of a spirituality that embraces you and walks you forward to find that kind of blessing, right? The foreign metal, right? To treasure. Triumph to some and treasure to others. To many wisdom and skill in words. Fair winds to the sailor. To the singer his art. And a manly heart to many a hero. That's how it's forged. It's not simply given. It is built and earned and sacrifice and pain and loss. That is the entirety of life. That's what it's all about. It will be painful. There will be things that fuck you up. There will feel like the wolf is on your ass. And this is what transitions. This is what makes you innocent. This is living up to a spiritual heritage. This is living up to what it means to be a fucking man or a woman in this world. This is the power of our spirituality. Not some egghead reading a fucking book offering, well, this has no value. Shut the fuck up. That's the kind of thing you would get from the uninspired and the uninitiated who haven't decided to face life, who think they can look at it most best from the viewpoint of the historical scholar and the educated opinion, what I have an understanding of the heathen worldview. Shut the fuck up. You haven't become shit. You're still sitting in mama's basement talking about what you think you know. This is the kind of thing that frustrates me. It says right here in this book that I prefer to think of as spiritual and a foundation for my faith, that it says triumph to some and treasure to others, to many wisdom and skill of words, fair winds to the sailor, to the singer his art, and a manly heart to many heroes. Goddamn, I'll take it. What do I got to do to get it, right? For me, a shrine of stones he made, and now to glass the rock is grown. All with the blood of beast was it red, in the goddesses ever did utter trust. Holy shit. Now I got a thing, I got a goal, and I got a path, right? What does that mean? I got to forge myself into something better. All these people that talk about, well, I don't bow before I stand before my, that's fine. You stand all you want to. When you've made yourself from stone into glass, feel free to stand there and expect something for it. If you haven't done that hard work, don't come to me saying, well, I saw a sign. Oh, how so? What kind of sign did you think you saw? Right? Did you shape yourself into something better to be capable of having that vision? Probably not. That's why this is show prep for the rest of the heathen community, because they don't get it. They don't understand, right? Tell me now of the ancient names and the races of all that were born of old, right? Who are the Skoldungs? Who are the Skilfings? Who are the Olflings? Who are the Ilfings? Who are the freeborn? Who are the highborn? The noblest of men that in Midgard dwell. This is our ancestry. I mean, I've seen it said before. Think about it. All of your ancestors had to make it through 3 plagues, an ice age, 2 world wars, the Spanish flu, right? All of these things, 2 people had to keep going together and bring you into this world. None of them are here now. Sometimes the people that are standing next to you, they ain't here either. And yet here you stand. Is it possible that in our actions like a wounded animal to survive the injuries that happen to us, that we begin to make that transition unknowing? Is it possible that our instinctive response to these challenges in life is to turn that stone to glass? And usually it's with our own blood, sweat, and tears, not anybody else's. It's my sacrifices of me that turn me into something worthy of this heritage, of living up to that name that says, yes, and my last name is Wilton, and that fucking means something. When we lose people that we love, it's a great raw wound. It's a great emptiness, a vacancy, a hole. For myself and my own personal losses, I see them in my dreams now. And they're every bit as clear as the memories that I have. That transition continues on, and yet I'm still here. I've got to do something bigger and better and become something more. Heinle tells him, thou art Otter, the son of Einstein the son of Alf the Old, Alf of Ulf, Ulf of Seferi, and Seferi's father was Svan the Red. Thy mother bright with bracelets fair, hight methinks the priestess Letus, Frothi her father, and Friot her mother, her race of the mightiest men must seem. And there you have it, men and women, powerful men and women coming together, forming a bond. It might be for political gain. It might be to secure the foundations of a kingdom. But in that kingdom, a son has come forth. Right? Just like the travels of Rig. They invite the divine into their home each successive generation to remind them who they are, to build them into something better, right? They work and they sacrifice and they toil, but all the time they employ their faith. And when the stranger comes to the door, come in and have the finest we have. Of old, the noblest was Ali, before him Halfdan, the foremost of Skildungs. Famed were the battles the hero fought, to the corners of heaven his deeds were carried. And that's the greatest thing that we could ever possibly hope for, is that when someone we love dies and they go to the halls of our ancestors, they can talk of the great things that their descendants have accomplished. Everybody knows what they've done when they show up. But it's those great stories of the descendants that offer us the opportunity to change ourselves from stone to glass, to live up to something. So when someone passes on, when my father passes, hopefully he told my grandfather and great-grandfather of the man that I had become. I don't know if he did, because he sure as fuck didn't do it in life. So what do I do with that? I probably better have some faith. I probably better continue to live up to actions that build my spirituality in a fashion that helps me transform from one type of individual into another type of individual. And it might not be an individual that anybody fucking likes. They may be intimidated. They may be scared off. They may not understand. They may be confused because I don't play the same bullshit games that they want to play. I might tell them to their face, no, you're dumb as fuck. Or I might say, what in the shit is that huge zit on your forehead? Right? Things like that come out of my mouth. But these are the kind of things that, so now all of a sudden, the power of our spirituality is transforming us into something that doesn't fit into this natural world that we live in. And to discredit that, they say, well, this really isn't that all important. Strengthened by Aemund, the strongest of men, Sigtryr he slew with ice-cold sword. His bride was Almvig, the best of women, and 18 boys did Almvig bear him. These are men and women. This is the full feminine and masculine integration. The goddess takes them to the god. The men marry the women, the best of men with the best of women, and they create these great, wonderful worlds where young men grow up to thrive, where young women grow up to become powerful, strong women in their own right. Halfdan the Old is a mythical king of Denmark called by Snorri the most famous of all kings, of whom it was foretold that for 300 years there should be no woman and no man in his line who was not of great repute. Holy shit, man. That's a hell of a legacy to have. After the slaying of Sigtryr, he married Almvig or Alvig, daughter of King Aemund of Holmgarth, Russia. He bore him 18 sons, 9 at one birth. These 9 were all slain, but the other 9 were traditionally the ancestors of the most famous families in northern hero lore. That's a hell of a heritage to live up to, right? Can we do it? I think so. Looks like we're beginning to make a transition. We can understand who we are. See, when you begin to understand those kind of things of the fathers and the mothers and the grandfathers and the grandmothers that have had influence in your life, there's some example there. Some of them are fuck ups. Some of them are absolute pieces of shit. Some of them couldn't do shit right if they don't know come here from Sikkim, right? They couldn't rescue a kitten out of a wet paper sack in a creek, right? But they have a child here. How do we overcome that? Well, we got to take a good look at it. Just because the person that brought us into this world didn't live up to the standards that we are now aware of, so we got to remember for 1,000 years, everybody's been waiting on somebody else to do it for them. Nobody picked up the sword to build their own kingdom. Well, I'll get a job and I'll work the farm and I'll plow the field. We'll have enough to survive. We'll get by. We'll make it. We got each other. We're poor, but we love each other. Shut the fuck up, right? Because somebody else is doing it for him. Well, Jesus will take care of it for him. Take the wheel. That motherfucker can't drive. He ain't got no license. There were no cars. He rode a donkey. Come on. People talking about take the wheel. Give me a break. Can't do it. So we got to rectify that. So when they talk about these generational curses, the biggest one I can think of is how they foisted Christianity upon us, the biggest farce that this world has ever known, right? Her husband was Ketil, the heir of Clyde. He was of thy mother, the mother's father, right? Hildegard, Otter's direct ancestor, Hildegard being Freya's mother, right? Another interpolation, Ketil, the semi-mythical Ketil Horthakari, from whom various Icelandic families trace their descent, probably King Haf of Hothaland, hero of the Half Saga and son of Yorleif and Hild. Before the days of Keri was Frothi. The horn of Hild was Hlothin. Next was Nana, daughter of Nokvi. Thy father's kinsman, her son became. Old is the line, and longer still. And all are thy kinsmen. Otter thou fool. And there she calls it. So we've got 1,000 years of Christianity corrupting the gene pool. But here we are, and all of a sudden, this is put back in front of men who are wanting to be men, and women who are wanting to be women, of people who want to become something more and know innately in here and in here, I can do more. I can be more. You're seeing it rattle the foundations of every political system in the world right now. Isolf and Olsolf, the sons of Olmeth, whose wife was Skirhild, the daughter of Skekel. Count them among the heroes mighty, and all are thy kinsmen, Otter thou fool. Gunnar the bulwark, Grim the hardy, Thorir the iron shield, Ulf the gaper, Brod and Horvir, both did I know. In the household they were of Hrolf the old. The manuscript of Nana says Mana, of Nana and her father Nokvi. We know nothing, but apparently Nana's son married a sister of Einstein, Otter's father. Olmeth, one of the sons of Ketil Horthakari, here and generally hereafter when it appears in the poem, right? Never mind, it goes to all. Hervarth, Jorvarth, Hrani, Angentir, Bui, Brahmi, Bari, Reifnir, Tiend and Tirfing, the Haddings twain, and all of thy kinsmen, all of thy fool. Eastward in Bolm were born of old the sons of Arngrim and Ephira, with berserk tumult and baleful deeds, like fire over land and sea they fared, and all of thy kinsmen, great conquerors indeed. The sons of Jormunrek, all of yore, to the gods in death were its offerings given. Okay. The 12 berserkers, the sons of Angrim and Yrfir, the story of whom is told in the Herfer saga and the Over Odd saga. Saxo Grammaticus tells of the battle between them and the Hjalmar and Over Odd. Right? The berserkers were wild warriors distinguished above all by the fits of frenzy to which they were subject in battle. During these fits, they howled like wild beasts, foamed at the mouth, and gnawed the iron rims of their shields. At such times, they were proof against steel or fire. But when the fever abated, they were weak. The etymology of the word berserk is disputed, probably, however, it means bare shirt. Right? Bolm is probably the island of Bolmsa in the Swedish province of Småland. In the manuscript, in most editions, is, however, so there's some changes there. Let's see here. The historical king Ermenaric, king of the Goths, who died about 376, according to Norse tradition, in which Jormunrek played a large part. He slew his own sons. In the saga, Jormunrek married Sigurd's daughter, Svanhild. Connect Otter's descent with the whole Volsung, Sigurd, Jormunrek, Giuki genealogy. The story of Sigurd is the basis for most of the heroic poems of the Edda of the famous Volsung saga, and in Germany, the Nibelungenlied, on his battle with the dragon Fafnir. He was kinsman of Sigurd. Hear well what I say, the foe of hosts and Fafnir's slayer. From Volsung's seed was the hero sprung, and Hjordis was born of Hrelthin's race. So that reminds me, the king of the Franks at Cologne is in my lineage. He draws his, in one of the Eddas, it talks about how the race of the gods originated from Troy. So in that lineage, so for a time during the time that we had the king of the Franks at Cologne and Rome was still in power, there were some of them that claimed the right to rule because they had Priam and Hecuba in their line, the king and queen of Troy when it fell, the mother and father of what the hell was his name? Anyway, he fought Achilles, and I can't remember his name. So there was a great, powerful idea of Troy that was a legend and a myth for a long time until somebody actually found it. Troy stretches its powerful lineage from into the Cimmerians and further onto the steppes. So that great migration route that went through there, I know for a fact that it's the same thing with Sigurd, right? He was a part of that whole thing. So whenever someone claims a right to be a powerful ruler, they can't just step up and kick the shit out of everybody that's there. There may be a better warrior than them, right? So how are they going to do it? How are they going to get that fealty, that loyalty from great warriors? That's right, Hector and Paris. So how are they going to get that loyalty? They're going to claim some kind of powerful lineage. And that's kind of what's going on here. So if he wins this bet, if he satisfies this power of lineage, he's got all the gold and blessings and a hero's heart already. He just needed to be reminded of it. That's the power of spirituality. That's how we overcome 1,000 years of Christianity. This reminding of who we are. This legitimate insistence that our heritage counts. That the manly hero's heart is already beating within us. That no matter the loss, no matter the obstacle, no matter the challenge in life, all we have to do is lean into it. That we have this power and this spirituality and the manly heart of a hero and the powerful heart of a woman. We have all we need to lean into the obstacle and kick the shit out of it and keep moving forward. That's life. And we're built to succeed at it. I was in the doctor's office Friday, and I was standing there looking. There's just this, all of Duluth it's just this whole area is just covered in doctor's offices, and it's been under construction as long as I can know. Every city has always got a hospital under construction. Tulsa has 4 magnificent hospitals, huge motherfuckers, right? Just mazes. And it occurred to me, I thought, imagine that we've built a society that's so tough and hard on its people that billion-dollar industries have emerged to help us not remember that, one, we have a hero's heart. You got to take this, you got to take that, you got to take this. And then to all of these, this is a time of peace and prosperity. We're not facing the Mongol horde. It's not World War II. We have all of these people that are sick because they're waiting on somebody else to take care of it for them. We have a whole generation of people that are morbidly obese, that are out of shape, and their children can't get in the army. But the world is tough. I sat in that doctor's office. I was an orthopedic surgeon. I got to have surgery next Thursday. I watched, it was full of people. And they were running them through there like a mill. People with something on their ankle, people with their arm in a sling, people with something on their leg, something that had become disconnected from somewhere. None of them, it appeared to me, had achieved that injury through an act of exertion. It was an accident. It was a trip or a fall, and they were out of shape and they lost it. Now they got to be fixed. The world is still very tough. And we have the unmitigated gall, the audacity to denigrate the very powerful gift of the hero's heart and let ourselves become soft in a world that will still challenge us. Huge industries have been made because of it. Proof's in the pudding. Right there is where it's at. How dare we slap this divine gift in the face? Say, you know what? I don't think I'm going to do anything with it. I'll be soft and I'll take medicine so I can be what I need to become. What a fucking shame. Who's the fool now? Harold Battletooth of Alth was born. Horeth the ring giver was her husband. The ring giver. So if you give a ring, that's an oath ring, right? Alth the Deep-Minded was Ivor's daughter. Alth the Deep-Minded is an amazing story that if you haven't read it, I highly suggest you do. She was an amazing queen. I need to find that story and go over it because it's a wonderful, powerful tale of just how powerful a woman can be. But Rothbarth, the father of Randvar, was, and all are thy kinsmen, all are thy fool. Now the short Voluspa. This is interesting because it's some part of it's the same, part of it's not, but it also answers some questions. 11 in number, the gods were known when Balder o'er the hill of death was bowed. And this to avenge was Vali swift when his brother Slayer soon he slew. Right, so it starts off already, Balder's been killed. Okay. Let me read these notes here real quick before I get worked up again. Harold's warlike career in Norway and his death on the Bravalla field at the hands of his nephew Sigurd Ring, son of Randiver and grandson of Rathbarth and Alf, were favorite saga themes. So, yep, it is. So, the father of Balder was the heir of Bor. That's Odin. Freyr's gift was Girth, the daughter of Gymir, of the giant's brood, and our both of Borher. To these as well was Thiazi's kin, the dark-loving giant, his daughter was Skathi. Much have I told thee, and further will tell. There is much that I know. Wilt thou hear yet more? Hythe and Hrothiof, the children of Hrimnir. Right? So that is stanza 34. Where else do we see Hythe? It's in the Voluspa. You have Goldveg, the lover of gold, Hythe, the bewitching of men's minds, and Hrothiof, which means horse thief, the inability of men to work together. So this is the only place they mention their father, right? A giant. Hythe means witch. Hrothiof means horse thief. And Hrimnir is the giant, their father. Those are the three all-powerful female Jotuns that enter Asgard's golden age and begin its downfall. When the love of gold, the bewitching of men's minds, and the horse thief arrive in a wealthy community, people begin to become paranoid, and they work against each other, and they can't work together, and they can't take charge of the animals they're in charge of because somebody stole them. Now there's doubt and accusation and theft and all of the things that corrupt a well-functioning society. That's why they call them all-powerful female Jotuns. But that power isn't for working good. That right there is the reason why Golveg is not Freya. Their father is Hrimnir. Freya's father is Njord. So anytime you hear somebody say that, you can bet your ass they don't know what they're fucking talking about. Probably read it on the internet or one of these other lesser books. The Sibyls arose from Vithal's race, from Vilmith all the seers are, and the workers of charms are Svothalfti's children, and from Ymir sprang the giants all. Much have I told thee, and further will tell, and there's much that I know. Wilt thou hear more? So the Sibyls arose from Vithal's race, right? The forest wolf. Vilmith means the wish tree, and Svarthalfti is the blackhead. So nothing else is ever said about that. But the seers come from the wish tree. Wow, that might be something worth looking at it. Yes, he is. The Sibyls arose from Vithal race, right? So the forest wolf. The forest wolf, the wish tree, and the blackhead. One there was born in the bygone days of the race of gods, and great was his might. 9 giant women at the world's edge. Once more the man so mighty in arms. Gjalt there bore him, Grieb there bore him, Isla, Irg Jaffa, Ulfrun, Engja, Imth Alla, and Jarn Saxa. Those are the names of Heimdall's mother. They may be rendered as Yelper, Griper, Foamer, Sandestrewer, She-Wolf, Sorrow-Whelmer, Dusk, Fury, and Iron Sword. So the guardian of Asgard, of the Rainbow Bridge, that stalwart bastion of those that are granted entry into the higher ideas that represent Asgard, right, are guarded by someone born of the Yelper, the Griper, the Foamer, the She-Wolf, the Sorrow-Whelmer, Dusk, Fury, and the Iron Sword. Out of that violence, he leaned into it and became the whitest of the Asa, guarded the Rainbow Bridge, and guarded those higher concepts that mark us as something that some people that can be something better. Strong was he made with the strength of the earth, with the ice-cold sea and the blood of swine. One that was born the best of all, and strong was he made with the strength of earth. The proudest is called the kinsman of men, of all the rulers throughout the world, right? That's Rig. So anytime you hear somebody talking about, we don't know who Heimdall's mothers are, really, it's right there. Now, Thor goes against some of these and takes care of some of them, and some of them he sleeps with, right? So I see this comment. I've heard Fenris is actually the name of Loki. His son is referred to as the Wolf of Fenris or the Fenris Wolf, saying that the wolf is a Fenrir, not the wolf's name. Don't have any evidence of that. I mean, that's a good point. There are some things that say that, but if we look here, so much of the wolf did Loki with anger both as win. So, and Sleipnir bore heed as Varthilfari. The worst of marvels seemed the one that sprang from the brother of Bilius then. A heart ate Loki, in the embers it lay, and half cooked found he the woman's heart. With child from the woman loped soon was, and thence among men came the monsters all. The sea, storm driven, seeks heavens. So there's an interesting tale there. I don't know who he is. So the wolf Fenrir, born of Loki, and the giantess Angerbotha. Sleipnir was Odin's eight-legged horse, and Loki in the guise of a mare, the worst doubtless meaning of the Mythgard-Sorm. Another child of Loki, the brother of Bylist, is Loki. So the Mythgard-Sorm, the Midgard worm, right? That's the worst of marvels. So it does not say here, and we need to pay close attention to this, there's one individual that's not on that list that we need to pay particular attention to, and that is Hel herself. So when you go further and further back in the lore, Grimm pointed it out first. She's always there. She is not a daughter of Loki. Loki was not an individual that was they didn't concern him with the continent. Loped means wildfire. Now that was part of the continent, but it was not. It was not Loki. A much different story, much different tale there. Loki is a uniquely Icelandic kind of idea. A heart ate Loki, in the embers it lay, and half cooked found he the woman's heart. With child from the woman Loki soon was, and thence among men came the monsters all. So this is him pretending to be a woman. This is another deal where this man, this male, became female and gave birth to the monsters that destroy the world. So I've seen that too. So he does challenge him when he tries to enter and speak to the Velusa during Balder's drama. But Tyr is the one that kills. So if you think of the idea that Tyr was the first one to possess Gungnir, according to the rock carvings in Sweden, and then Odin has it, it's quite likely Tyr is more like the grandfather. And he would be the first one towards the gates of hell than before Odin. Him slaying the fear of death, the idea of the god of battle, slaying or killing the thing that creates the fear of death. There's something that resonates with that. So when we come across those kind of ideas, we got to figure, okay, so is it Gorm that actually kills Odin? So could be. Whatever the case may be, it is a devourer of hope. It is a devourer. It is a lycanthropic beast that steals hope from the living. That is an interesting thing to consider. So then we go to the Ragnarok itself. The sea, storm-driven, seeks heaven itself. Over the earth it flows. The air grows sterile. Then follow the snows and the furious winds, for the gods are doomed and the end is death. Then comes another, a greater than all, though never I dare his name to speak. Fewer they are now that farther can see than the moment when Odin shall meet the wolf. That's an interesting thing to consider. When Balder returns after all of this, having spent however long in hell, learning all of the secrets of everyone, of all the beings that have passed on before from all the 9 realms, what would he look like? Well, for one, he would be whole. he wouldn't have sacrificed an eye. He's already sacrificed the entirety of who he is to learn all of this knowledge. Whereas Odin cheated, and after 9 days and nights, he was cut down and picked up the runes, right? The ancestral knowledge. Balder actually goes through it and would come out greater than all. So then we go back. Now we go back to Freya and Heimdall. To my board now bring the memory beer, so that all thy words thou hast spoken, the third morn hence he may hold in mind, when their races Otter and Angantyr tell. So this is the memory draught. This is the same thing that the victory bringer gives to Sigurd. Heimdall spake, hence shalt thou fare, for fain will I sleep. From me now thou gettest few favors good. My noble one out in the night thou leapest, as Hythrun goes with the goats among. To oath didst thou run, who loved thee ever, and many under thy apron have crawled. My noble one out in the night thou leapest, as Hythrun goes amongst. So she's calling her a whore. Freya spake, around the giantess flame shall I raise, till that forth unburned thou mayst not fare. Flames I see burning, the earth is on fire, and each for his life the price must lose. Bring then to Otter the draught of beer, a venom full for an evil fate. Freya spake, thine evil words shall work no ill, though giantess bitter thy baleful threats. A drink full fair shall Otter find, if all of the gods the favor I get. So Heimdall starts acting an ass. All right, she tried to treat her right, and she started acting an ass, started trying to lay a curse on her, trying to say, I'm going to undo what you're trying to do, all of these other things. So Hythrun is the she-goat that stands in Valhall. The name being here used simply of she-goats in general. It's a caustic comment on Freya's morals. Of these, Loki entertained a similar view. Odr, that is her man. Right? It seems probable the two lines that have been lost for the effect that Freya will burn the giantess alive. If swiftly now thou dost not seek, and hither bring the memory beer. So she basically told her, I'm going to burn you alive if you don't get that shit going. So in all of that stuff, in these short two tales, there's a world of magnificent learning to be had there that allows us to function in this world. From 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, who knows how old it truly really is. But it was put down in the Middle Ages for a reason. Now that it's not been lost and it touches our lives again, are we brave enough to lean into the challenges of life and celebrate this faith as a power to do it? Do we have an understanding of what it means to celebrate the hero's heart in the time of tragedy? Do we have an understanding of what the afterlife looks like and what we can become as the torch is passed from father to son, from mother to daughter? Because it is these great words, it is these great conversations, it is this sharing of knowledge that is in effect the most powerful aspect of that memory draught that we share with each other. And in that act of sharing power and strength and faith and spirituality, we embolden and empower each other with a drink from our own memories. That's the power of this faith. Okay, I got 10 minutes to get ready for my Gothi meeting call, and it's a little bit more in depth than everybody else, but it's worth it. And anyone who wants to join in, feel free to jump on in. We'll get something going. We'll set up a meeting time, and I will begin working with that as well. So if anyone has any questions or comments or observations, I would love to hear them. I welcome them. I enjoy the discussion, because all it is the real, very literal aspect of the memory draught in our lives of reminding us who we are. So, having completed this week's show prep for the rest of the healing community, tomorrow's Monday. Go out there and grab it by the nose and whip its ass. Thank you.